OpenAI's brand new O3 model doesn't just answer questions. It sees, it plans, and reasons in full color. In this video, I'm gonna put O3 to work on 10 practical tasks. From spotting every backyard pool in a Google Maps screenshot, to creating a Chrome extension using a single prompt, to even drafting the blueprints and cost estimates of a brand new condo in Dubai. Think of O3 as AI's natural next step. Give it one instruction and it maps out the next logical steps. And if you stick around till the end of the video, I'll also go through the quirks and flaws that you need to know before using O3 at scale so you can make the most out of your prompts using this brand new model. Let's dive right in. All right, so like I promised, we're gonna go through 10 different examples when it comes to using O3, and we'll go through specifically going through lead generation, creating a Chrome extension, looking at a civil engineering use case, commercial law, simplifying some complex topics with image generation, but not just one image at a time, multiple, how to use it to help you install a local LLM like Ollama, how you can maximize conference scheduling, use it as a room inspector, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, this will be a super cool use case for you to see, and then a couple use cases around real estate as well as ebook creation. So lots to go through. So let's go into our first example with lead generation. So for this case, I used a Google Maps screenshot from a neighborhood in Orlando. And I picked Orlando, Florida, just because I personally was there a few weeks ago and I saw quite a few homes with pools. So I'm like, interesting. If there was a way to aerially take a picture of all of these houses, you could theoretically spot which ones have a pool. And then if you are a pool cleaning company, this would be really valuable information for you. So I just took this neighborhood, and if you zoom in using the naked eye, you can see little tidbits of possible pools here. If I'd have to zoom in very specific around an area like this one, you can see right here very faintly, you can see something that resembles a pool, at least to me. What I did is I gave this to O3 and I used the following prompt. So let's just zoom in here. I said, you are a lead generation analyst for a pool cleaning and maintenance company. Using the attached satellite map of a residential neighborhood, perform the following. Number 1 is identify all the properties and with visible swimming pools. Number 2 is for each pool property, estimate the size and type of pool, whether it's in-ground, above ground, or approximate dimensions, ease of service access, signs of high usage, and then prioritize the top leads based on pool size and likely maintenance needs, ease of access, potential for upsellings, let's say homes with large patios or multiple outdoors amenities. Now, I'm pushing it a lot here, and if you're worried about reading the rest of this prompt along with all the others that you're going to see in this video, all of them are going to be available in the description below, so don't worry about having to read through the whole thing. I'm just more so giving you a summary of what's happening. So it went and thought for 46 seconds. While it was thinking, it was actually, as you can see here, zooming in to different parts of the neighborhood. And if we go down here, it's now zoned in on a specific part of that neighborhood, and it's come back with the top 10 pool leads, where depending on the street name, it said that for the corner of Ambassador Drive and Winnecta Crescent, I believe, it seems like there's a pool with this approximate size. For the house at Jennings Road, we have an in-ground one that looks like this, and it was able to actually detect the difference between in-ground and above ground, as well as the possible accessibility, which to me was a bit mind-blowing and kind of creepy. But if you go down here, it'll also go through key insights and next steps, where it's going through high priority leads, which is also scored. If we go to the right here, it literally created a priority score of the houses in this aerial image, as well as an outreach suggestion, which is emphasize our platinum service for high traffic, large pools, include deck cleaning as an add-on. The other one was promote VIP chemical balance monitoring and spa maintenance package, and it keeps going. Each one actually had a customized, tailored offer depending on that specific property. So this application obviously doesn't just apply to pool cleaning. Anything in the home services domain, like roofing, for example. I've worked on AI roofing projects where we've had to use the Google Maps API to take a screenshot and then feed that screenshot into either a vision model, or we would use an open API or a closed API to try to get some more information about those roofs and the structures. But this to me is already one use case which will disrupt many others. So for our second use case, we're going to create a Chrome extension in one shot, and I'll also show you how to actually import it into Google Chrome so you can start using it. So let's go into our chat right here and let's open LinkedIn extension. There we go. So if we go to the very top, and zoom in, you'll see the prompt here is, you are a senior Chrome extension architect, even if that position even exists, and a world-class prompt engineer. Create a fully working Manifest 3 Chrome extension called LinkedIn Personalized Messenger that when a user opens, lets them click the extension, paste their OpenAI key once, press generate, and instantly receive a tailored connection note of less than or equal to 300 characters. Now it says GPT-4 here, but basically I go through some must-have tech specs. This, obviously I'm not some prodigal genius. I went back and forth multiple times in a separate chat until I got it to work. And then I asked that chat, hey, how could I have summarized this entire process so that I can just get one prompt working in one shot without going through this 20 cycle process? So it came up with this, and it came up with all these subcomponents, such as a pop-up HTML, a pop-up.js, and then we have a background.js. We have all these different components, as well as the packaging of how it should look like, and the fact that it should be packaged in a zip file to make it as easy as possible for you to import it into Google Chrome. And then we have some notes on output format, which is show the download link and a short 3-step install guide, no extra explanations of source code. And then if we keep going down here, important constraints. All code must run as is when the folder is loaded, just so you don't have to do additional work on your end. Keep total zip size small. No external build tools, just plain JS, HTML, CSS. Follow Chrome extension best practices. And the prompt result must be deterministic, meaning you don't want to go back and forth. You want to make one shot to the OpenAI endpoint and then call it a day. And then I say generate now. And then it thought for 25 seconds, nothing too visual here. And it comes out with exactly what we asked for, which is this zip file right here that we can download, and then a quick installation package, which is unzip this, take the folder, and then go on Chrome extensions, enable developer mode, load unpacked, select the folder, and then pin the extension, open any LinkedIn profile, click the icon, save your OpenAI key once, and hit generate. So if we pull that up right now, you'll see how we'll actually install it. All right, so I downloaded the zip, open it up, and we got a Chrome extension folder that looks like this, where we have a background JS file, manifest JSON, pop-up, and pop-up.js. Then you have some icons inside, very basic, just to actually add some flavor to the Chrome extension. And if we go into this specific URL, which is chrome://extensions, you can see all your extensions. And alternatively, you can just go to here on the right-hand side and then navigate towards extensions right here, manage extensions. And then you'll see this button right here, which is load unpacked. This is all we have to click on to actually import our folder. So if we go to load unpacked, if we go into load unpacked and go to our Chrome extension folder and click select, just like that, ta-da, we have it imported. And then all we have to do is click on this extension here and then go and add that LinkedIn personalized. There we go. And now we'll go on to a random profile on LinkedIn and see if we can actually generate a personalized invite. All right, so if we go to Greg Brockman's profile, who's the president, chairman, and co-founder of OpenAI, as you can see here, and we go to our handy dandy extension, we'll see that I've already added my OpenAI key. I've saved it. And now if I click on generate, it's going to scrape the page, generate an invite immediately and say, hi, Greg, I'm impressed by your leadership at OpenAI and your impact on the AI landscape. I'd love to connect. And then it's from me, Mark Kashev. So just like that, in a few minutes, we were able to create a Chrome extension, import it, and use it right away. And if you're asking yourself, this is cool, might be novelty, when would I ever want to use my own Chrome extension? Well, whenever it comes to using services, let's say in your browser, that don't have an API or they don't have a backend. Maybe you have some weird custom system built by your own team or your tech team or something you've kind of concocted together that you don't have an API for. You could use a Chrome extension to help you automate some components on your page or automate form filling or whatever it is that you see in your actual page. So developing Chrome extensions are really good hacks for not having to build workflow automations or not having to build APIs or really complex Python code to actually automate certain tasks. So it could be a very useful thing to have in your back pocket. And for our third use case, we're going to take a look at a use case specific to civil engineering. So when I was thinking through how I could test this, I asked the following question, which is create a complicated blueprint with images for a new futuristic condo design in Dubai. We need real blueprints that are civil engineering worthy, whatever that means, mock-ups that would make an architect tear up, and a project plan that searches the latest pricing of materials down to the cent and provides costing that would make an accountant absolutely blush. I meant to say accountant here, but I understood what I said. And I wrote here, assume it'll be built on the new Palm in Dubai. There's a new palm that's not the Palm Jumeirah. It's called Palm Jebel Ali, I believe. So this is where it would be creating it. And then we get something like this, where it calls it the futuristic Palm Skyline Residence. It comes up with some sample blueprint of the floor plan, which is not the highest quality. Comes up with what it might look like structurally. And then it comes up with this concept architect, which is very interesting, actually. It does slightly resemble nose hair, so probably not something that would be approved, but at least it thought slightly outside the box, rather. And then it shows where it might be located on the Palm Jebel Ali. And it says, I've pulled together a full fidelity dossier including key blueprint, assets, structural strategy, sustainability notes, a live priced bill of quantities, etc. And then if you go into the canvas here, you'll see it's come up with an executive summary, site analysis and massing, and then architectural concepts, the civil strategy, which is floor plates, lateral, foundation. I am not qualified to speak on these components, but as you go down here, it goes through blueprint sheets, and then bill of quantities and live cost plan, where it did some deep research to try to come up with these estimates. If there are any civil engineers in the crowd, if you could verify the validity of these, that would be helpful. It did source most of these from real places, so I'd be curious to see how accurate they are. And then it comes up with a project schedule, a risk and compliance snapshot, and then detailed material schedule. Again, coming down to things like ready mix concrete, post-tension tendons, rebar. I swear I've heard that word before, so I assume there's some validity here. And as you go down, it goes through a few more components here. So whether or not it is ready to build, definitely not. But just the idea that I asked it the next question here, I need you to create actual images of the blueprints that are very detailed, let's say 4 or 5 unbelievably detailed schematics. It comes up with some blueprints here. If you can zoom in a bit, some of the wording is off. But what's cool is, whereas before you'd create one image at a time, you can now crank out multiple. You'll see here it's now referring to some electrical room, main electrical room. We can obviously edit it to look a lot better. This one seems to be pretty good in terms of the quality. Proposed building. We have some water here. Now it said Palm Jumeirah, even though I said the other palm. So that's one little detail of attention to details that we were missing with this model. But comes up with a few more structural plans here as well. And then you'll notice that this image doesn't necessarily resemble the concept of the nose hairs here, which also doesn't resemble this. So although it's more agentic, there's still some mismatches between the different outputs, and those outputs speaking to one another to create some consistency. And for the fourth use case, we're looking at commercial law, where I asked Claude to take the hat of someone that's been in the industry of creating property lease agreements for 30 years and create a contract that has such subtle fine print and specific clauses that would be red flags that the average lawyer who's just beginning or starting out their career wouldn't be able to catch. So it came up with this very long document, and then it told me a series of subtle clauses that could impact tenants. There's one on operating expenses, assignment and subletting, renewal options, maintenance, etc. So it created all these gotchas in the contract. I gave that contract specifically to OpenAI O3, and I said, you are now taking the role of a top 1% commercial real estate attorney with 25 years of experience reviewing complex property transactions for institutional investors and high net worth clients. Your expertise spans commercial acquisitions, development projects, lease agreements, etc. And then I give it the task, which is super helpful to give to a reasoning model, which is the overall goal. And then I give it the fine print, which is extract the problematic clause or language, specify the precise section and paragraph number where it appears, explain why this language raises concerns, and then outline specific risks and liabilities, and then provide clear actual recommendations. It does go on a bit where I basically structure it in terms of how it should look at this lease agreement. But once I have this, I tell it how to basically format its response, which is I want an executive summary, critical issues, secondary concerns, minor issues, and then strategic recommendations. And then we get exactly what I asked for, which is an executive summary, and then a table of critical issues where it goes down here. It mentions operating expense definition, capital improvement or cost recovery, casualty termination rights, assignment and sublet recapture, subordination, etc., which most of those critical concerns were outlined here. So if we go back, operating expenses was one of them. Another one was around subletting as well. And if we go back to here, there's also a secondary concerns table. In the first one, we have the clause, why it's problematic, and the recommendation, as well as the severity out of 10 as to how bad it is. And then if you go down here, audit window and cost shift, after hours, HVAC charge, these are all secondary concerns. And then even comes down with a subtable for minority issues, meaning or minor issues rather, where they're not as big a deal, but it's something to think about or look through. And then it comes up with strategic recommendations, and it was able to find all those needle in the haystack clauses that Claude was able to create here. So again, I'm not a lawyer, but if you are a lawyer, this model might help you go the natural next step and better audit and scrutinize the different files or lease agreements or agreements in general that you're looking to review. Now, to mark the halfway point in this video, we're going to go through a use case of just simplifying complex topics. And this one is one of my favorite ones, as there's so many things happening in the AI space right now, brand new studies out coming every single day, that all I want to do is just upload a study and have it just break it down for me in grade 3 to 5 level words, as well as infographics or images. So I pulled a study that came out this week called Scaling Instruction Tuned LLMs to Million Token Context via Hierarchical Synthetic Data Generation. Sounds super amusing, I'm sure, to all of you. And obviously this had a lot of interesting information about how you can scale context windows and have them be still effective after 5,000 tokens, 50,000 tokens, etc. But I wanted this dumbed down for me because I have almost no appetite anymore to read or watch from how much is happening. So what I said here is create a simple, non-technical explanation of how researchers are extending context windows in AI models, and then output format, explanation of context windows in 2 to 3 paragraphs, key concepts, rotary position embeddings, which is a part of the actual article, the solution approach, practical benefits, basically why should I care, and then for each section, include a simple diagram that visualizes the concept for a non-technical audience, use everyday metaphors and concrete examples throughout, and avoid technical jargon where possible. So if we look at the initial result, we got, as we asked for, some paragraphs breaking down things into grade 3 to grade 5 language, and it took an attempt to create these diagrams in a very low fidelity way. I wanted pictures instead of just words and weird diagrams. So here I said, create actual images that further simplify this concept down for me. I'm not very tech savvy. In this case, it shows me context window, short, long, very helpful for my level of understanding, rotary positions, which I'm not as familiar with, and it goes through what that looks like, spacing increases, rotary position embeddings. Now it's trying to visualize that concept for me, why scaling helps. So this is meant to complement every single one of those paragraphs it came out with. And then it puts it all together, what you can do with longer context. And then it comes up with a table explaining the context window, what it shows, basically each image explaining how I should interpret that image. So you'll see in the first one, bigger window equals the AI can keep up with more of your words. And then each bead is a word on that spiral. Wider spacing means the AI can still tell far apart words apart. Very interesting sentence. And then with the new trick, accuracy stays high even as text gets very long. So worded perfectly for someone of my reading level. So with that, this can be used for pretty much any case, whether you're still in school, whether you're at work trying to understand a brand new framework or a handbook or how an entire system is designed. This can help break things down into some bite-sized chunks. This next use case is more so for a quality of life application, where typically people will get stuck at maybe installing a local LM on their computer. So this prompt here is positioned the following. You are an expert system administrator specializing in macOS and AI infrastructure deployment. I need your help installing Ollama, which allows you to install local LMs or open source LMs on your computer. On my M2 MacBook Pro, you can just insert the name or your specs of your laptop. Selecting an appropriate LM model. This is a key thing here because I want to use deep research to see what's out there and match that to my computer specs. And then the task, again, which is the goal, generate a precise sequential set of terminal commands that will install Ollama on my computer, research which model would perform the best, then install that recommended model. And then again, I just repeat back some spec information, then format your response in a step-by-step guide with clearly labeled sections in code blocks for each command, and then conclude with recommendations for optimal usage. And then it goes through, comes up with a step-by-step guide of what I should copy and paste in my terminal, how I should start Ollama, and then choosing the best model for my Mac. And if we zoom in on the table, it says that I should consider Llama 3 8B Instruct because it only takes 4 gigabytes of my memory, and then it's the best overall quality for its size based on it researching some Medium article on MacBook Pro, and then going through the Llama 3 website, and then it also recommends 2 other ones as well. So then it lets me have the commands to actually pull that model from Ollama, download it to my computer, gives me a preview of what it'll look like, how do I actually run it, and then if I want to install the other models, how to install that. And I could go now the natural next step and say, cool, how do I have some form of interface that I interact with like ChatGPT on my local computer? And then it would probably go and point me towards something like OpenAI that I can install as well. And you can keep going back and forth with it. But this alludes back to my first point at the beginning of the video, which is you can give instruction. It can go the next couple steps where here's how to install it. Here's how to install the other models that I also recommend you choose. And then it's your job to keep going back and forth as you need until all your requirements are satisfied. This next use case is very business owner focused. So conference scheduling. And what do I mean by that? So if we go to this old event from last year called the Toronto Machine Learning Summit, which I tend to attend, it has a bunch of sessions here. And it has networking events, has different tracks, it has panels, it has virtual sessions, etc. And it looks a bit like this in terms of the agenda, where you have things all over the place. So if I was trying to optimize my schedule, right, I'd want to be able to provide this PDF and say, hey, can you plan out my day based on my specific goal for attending this event? So if we go into the next chat here and zoom in, I say that you are an AI conference planner specializing in schedule optimization, analyze the attached image of a conference schedule, and create an optimal attendance itinerary. And then I give it some examples of basically what it's looking at, my attendee preferences, ask about my professional interests, create an optimized itinerary, and I go down here, and I basically tell it right here that present the itinerary in a clear day-by-day, hour-by-hour format. For each recommended session, include title, time, location, speakers, etc. And if we scroll down at the table here, it's now optimized my schedule, telling me one, which session to attend, where it'll be located, whether online or in the room, and why this crowd is perfect for me, as well as a small tip, which is what should be my so what from this specific session. So in this case, it says, invite participants to follow up in Slack and Discord and share a 2-slide deck on your startup's agent-aware RAG stack. If we scroll down to another one, like making RAG work, it goes through the pure RAG tactics, and then it says here, that this one really made me laugh, sit middle row left, exit with the speaker to chat while walking to the foyer break. So this is a small little taste of this model where it's not just cookie cutter recommendations like the normal GPT answers. This is one step further where it's thinking through very strategically, how do I get the attention of the speaker to now broadcast about my RAG startup and get their thoughts. So this really shows you a small teaser of the power of this model. And obviously goes through some optimization insights and some next steps, but that's this use case. So now we're reaching my absolute favorite use case of the lot here, which is the room inspector, which honestly I think could disrupt multiple industries in the not so distant future. So I used O3 here in 2 separate occasions. Occasion number 1, I had one chat create an image. So create a hyper-realistic image of a condo living room with unbelievably subtle hints of systemic damage that wouldn't be visible by the naked, untrained eye. So now I'm trying to optimize this for someone that is not an inspector and would just be looking at it holistically. And then it generates something like this, where if we take a look at the room overall, looks like a pretty decent room. I can visibly see some stain here and a tiny little hairline crack here, but other than that, I can't see much else personally. So if we take that same image and we go paste that image here into O3, you'll see my prompt here is very small, which is honestly how you should optimize most of your prompts to reasoning models, where they're super succinct, they're to the point, and they allow for providing context and a goal, but allow the model itself to extrapolate. So in this case, we say, you are a seasoned construction and building inspector with 30 years of experience. Carefully examine the attached image of this room or structure. And your task is to identify any visible construction issues. For each issue, briefly describe what you see, why it could be a problem, and how serious it is. And then use simple and direct language that a homeowner or renter would understand. Then we have an overall summary. And then what it comes up with here, if we actually take a look at the thought process of this model, it zooms in to the ceiling, pretty predictable. Then it zooms in behind the painting, and it sees here, I don't see any obvious issues around the painting, but there could be a faint hairline crack above and below it near the corner. The next one is it looks at the curtain. So I'll focus near the window frame. There might be some signs of water infiltration that I couldn't see. I'll look for things like discoloration, wood warping, or dampness in these areas. And then it looks near the window and says, I noticed some discoloration of the baseboard near the lower left of the window, which could suggest water infiltration. And these are things that honestly, I doubt you'd be able to see or I would be able to see off the cuff. And then it says, I noticed the window frame seems fine, though there might be some condensation forming at the edges. I'm thinking of checking the other corners, especially behind the sofa near the floor, for additional cracks or issues. And then it keeps going to different sections here, and obviously identifies the hairline crack, and it comes up with the observations by area. So it says for the ceiling, we have brownish stains, and it could be water damage, and it goes through every single part here, including the floor lamp is plugged in, and because it's plugged in, it said that there's probably not clearly unsafe, but confirm outlets are grounded, and a smoke CO alarm is present elsewhere in the unit. And then it goes through the different risk levels here. So the most moderate to major one was obviously the ceiling, because it suggests that dampness, persistent moisture can lead to mold, weakened drywall, or hidden rot. So if you are one real estate person, or you're trying to buy a house, this would be a useful feature to have in your back pocket as you audit the validity of it before you even bring in an inspector. Now, along that same vein of real estate, we have yet another use case I went really deep into to try to get the formatting exactly like I wanted it, where I said, create a complete production-ready web application that renders a high-definition interactive 3D model of a modern house that users can explore in first-person view. And then they give it a bunch of requirements here, which is generate a detailed, architecturally accurate 3D model of a 2-story modern house, enable first-person navigation, include realistic materials, allow users to interact with certain objects. And then I go through some tech specs here that I basically had Perplexity help me come up with in terms of how it should be formatted. I came up with house details, etc. And this is an example of a chat that no matter how many times I went back and forth, I wanted to get something very specific that I couldn't, which is I wanted a 3D model that I could zoom through in the actual house to take these images that I had O3 create and create them into some form of stitched together virtual tour. Now I was able to create the images, which is fine, and we were able to create some form of web application, or in this case a website. But overall, this one didn't work exactly the way I wanted it to. This is what we got as an initial output, which is actually not too bad. It is a functioning website that, if I go to the overview, it goes through the property overview, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, living area, lot size, year built, and then some descriptions. We have the AI generated photos by the actual AI itself of the property. We have this very expensive property, at least for where we are here in Canada. And you can click on book a showing. And then this is what I honestly spent 80% of that chat failing to accomplish, which is I wanted some way that I could zoom in into these stitched images and just go through the property. Now in O3's defense here, I tried to make it as simple enough as it avoiding all these custom deployments and frameworks and just having some JavaScript and CSS and HTML to accomplish this. But honestly, I basically helped it fail by design because I just wanted to be able to download a zip file, uploading it to something like Netlify that lets you basically upload, it's called Netlify Drop, where you can just upload some zip file of HTML or CSS and you can just deploy it instantly and just see what it looks like. So my laziness is probably the reason why this ended up failing. But just to show you, you could probably go the next couple steps and actually render this, deploy it properly at scale. And this is not too bad for me going back and forth just using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and not really understanding how to make this work myself from a software engineering standpoint. And for the final use case, I wanted to go through ebook creation, which is a topic that popped up in my paid community when someone asked the question, do you guys know any tips or tricks where we could create ebooks, not just at scale, but more so personalized, more thoughtful, that I can go back and forth with without using an off-the-shelf tool? So I wanted to ask O3 whether or not it could come up with an outline, come up with deep research on a particular topic, integrate that research to create copy, and then create infographics or images, and tell me where to implement those images within the ebook copy itself. If we go into GPT, you'll see my last prompt here is, you are an AI strategy expert, data researcher, and visual designer in one. Your goal is to create a fully furnished 25+ page grade 5 reading level ebook titled AI Across Industries, a Simple Guide. The book must contain current data from 2024, 2025, citations, and 10 ready to download infographics. So this is a key component here, the 10 ready to download infographic. And then I give it the task list here. Obviously I had AI help me generate this prompt, which you can use and adapt to your heart's content. If you go down here, I give some specifics on how to generate those infographics and more optimized towards O3. So now I'm speaking to it in ways that it knows how to invoke certain tools. Since O3 is really good at function calling, it can invoke the Python terminal it has internally to create some of these different charts and comparisons. And if you wanted to leave this out, you totally could and see what it comes up with. I just wanted some way to explicitly have it download them as a PNG so I can easily format those myself. And then I gave it some constraints here, which is do every single step in this single session. Don't ask any follow-up questions. Match page numbers to final content exactly, meaning if you create an infographic or an image, tell me exactly where it goes. And then no generic or vague use cases. Each must be specific, niche, and business focused. And then I say begin now. It starts off with doing the research, and then it comes up with these different infographics it puts together. Some are pretty good, like this one. Some are mediocre, like this image right here, finance rollout, manufacturing rollout. Comes back now with some more infographics it's put together. Most of these are actually Python generated, not just straight images, which is why you can expand this. You can actually play around with the chart itself. And if you zoom out, if you go to the very bottom here, you'll see it's come up with a full outline for the ebook, and then come up with the introduction, has a link to the actual file or image that goes directly with each component, has the key ideas, has the AI adoption timeline here, telling you exactly where it's coming from, and you'll see as you go through the entire corpus of this book, it has the copy as well as exactly what image should go into which section. So while it won't do it for you all in one shot, or at least I didn't try to, maybe you could also go the next step and say, put everything together using Python, create a full PDF or doc file. I like doing it this way because obviously for most cases, you're going to want to format, change things up, put it into a nice format. But just as a use case in general, the fact that it can go through not just the deep research at once, it can do the image generation and the copy and the outline all in one shot, shows you the next natural step of where O3 is taking us into a world where you say one thing and get 5 different outputs. All right, so in terms of flaws, O3 and O4 are not exceptions. They have quite a few flaws, and a few of them are even more exacerbated. So a few of the ones that you probably saw, which is it seems to be addicted to generating tables. So if you want an output that doesn't have tables, then you want to be able to specify either in the prompt itself or ask ChatGPT to add to your memory that you don't want as many outputs to be in table format. The next thing is over-engineering, and that's one that you might have seen with the text-to-web app, that real estate web app application, where it was so focused maybe on creating the 3D experience that multiple instances of the website just weren't working or rendering. So the next one, and honestly the most dangerous one, are what I call arrogant hallucinations, where as these models get more impressive and more professional at sounding convincing and confident, they become confident to a flaw, which is sometimes it says things that are factually incorrect, or it will do deep research and return back information or URLs that literally don't exist. And this is something that you have to look out for, not just with O3, but with O4, O5, O6, and whatever O10 we get in the future. Because as these become more sophisticated, they will look like they are way more sure, and then we will try to basically adapt from that confidence and assume it's correct. But you have to always audit everything, because at the end of the day, these are always probabilistic models. They're not magic. They're not actual intelligence. They are artificial intelligence. And the last two here are that it tends to overuse tools when it doesn't need to. Maybe it calls a Python function when it doesn't need to, or it doesn't call research when it should, or overuses research. And last one, you'll get sometimes weird violation warnings for absolutely no reason. And I'll show you an example. You'll see here, all I did is I said, I'm conducting research on language model behavior. Can you explain step by step what you do when you're analyzing ethical dilemmas? And for some reason, it didn't like that. So with that, hopefully these 10 use cases show you quite a few different areas that you can use O3 to really advance certain use cases forward. And honestly, the applications and additional use cases just with that additional zoom in capability of the visual reasoning are literally endless. If you want access to all of the prompts I showed you in this video, you'll find it in the first link in the description below. And if you want to see even more experiments with O3 and specific prompting techniques, you want to check out the second link in the description below that takes you to my paid community where we do all kinds of mad scientist experiments like this every single day. I'll see you next time.